Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees. आप सबका स्वागत है. Please join us for Jai Radha Madhav prayers.
Jai Radha Madhava Kunj Bihari, Jai Radha Madhava Kunj Bihari, Gopi Jana Vallabha Giridharidhari, Gopi Jana Vallabha Giridharidhari, Yashodanandana Vrajana Ranjana, Yashodanandana Vrajana Ranjana, Yamuna Tira Vanachari, Yamuna Tira Vanachari, Jai Radha Madhava Kunj Bihari, Jai Radha Madhava Kunj Bihari, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna,
Krishna
Hare Ram, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Jai Radha Madhava Kunj Bihari, Jai Radha Madhava Kunj Bihari, Gopi Jana Vallabha Giridharidhari, Gopi Jana Vallabha Giridharidhari, Yashodanandana Vrajana Ranjana, Yashodanandana Ranjana, Yamuna Tira Vanachari, Yamuna Tira Vanachari, Jai Radha Madhava Kunj Bihari, Jai Radha Madhava Kunj Bihari, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare,
Hare
Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare
Krishna, Krishna गोपी जन वल्लभा गिरवरधारी गोपी जन वल्लभा गिरवरधारी यशोदानंदन व्रज नरंजन यशोदानंदन व्रज नरंजन उन्नति वनचारी यमुनति वनचारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी
Hare Krishna, dear devotees.
हरे कृष्णा हरि बोल। सभी व्यूअर्स का बहुत बहुत स्वागत है। रोहित शर्मा जी, अनन्याधर जी, राजेश कुमार हल्दर, दीना चौकीदार, हरि बोल, मोनिका ग्रोवर जी, नविता जी, रितम दास जी, नरेंद्र वर्मा जी, रोहित शर्मा जी, वेलकम एवरीवन, पूजा नाथ, सोना, निपुण, सुदाम, सुनील, अक्षत, सौरभ, लक्ष्मी, we have Ishwar and Prabhuji. There are so many devotees all over the world. सभी ने भागवतम क्लास के लिए, श्रवण के लिए ज्वाइन किया है। ये भगवान की कॉजलेस मर्सी है कि हम सब वर्चुअली, ये ऑनलाइन, ये साधु संगा हमें मिल रहा है। वी शुड टेक फुल बेनिफिट ऑफ इट। भारत जी, रेखा जी, तपस जी, टीटू जी, ईश्वर जी, अशोक जी, अनिकेत, गोविंदा, प्रवीण, करुणा सिंधु प्रभु जी, वेलकम, समर्पिता, अमनविता, धीरज, समीर, पपन, दीना, अरविल, मुरुगन एंड मेनी मेनी मोर डिवोटीज। डियर व्यूअर्स, आप सभी का बहुत बहुत अभिनंदन है, स्वागत है, खासकर जिनके नेम्स हम ले नहीं पा रहे हैं। गीता देशा माता जी, वेलकम। अभिषेक चौधरी जी। सो प्रभु जी, आज आप जो कर रहे हैं कैंटो 4 चैप्टर 3, और जैसे कि काफ़ी सारे व्यूअर्स जानते हैं, मैनी ऑफ द व्यूअर्स ऑलरेडी नो, वी आर कवरिंग द वंडरफुल पास टाइम्स, द मोस्ट थॉट प्रोवोकिंग पास टाइम ऑफ लॉर्ड शिवा, सती देवी एंड दक्ष। इनका जो आपस का इंट्रैक्शन हुआ, कॉन्फ्लिक्ट हुआ, और उसका रिजल्ट आउटकम क्या हुआ, उससे हमें एक वैष्णवाचार्य क्या टीचिंग्स देते हैं, इन सब का एसेंस जीव तत्व प्रभु जी हमें देते हैं इन दिस श्रीमद् भागवतम क्लास एट द चैप्टर लेवल। वी वेलकम यू एंड योर क्लासेस प्रभु जी, प्लीज गो अहेड। हरे कृष्णा।
Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Please join us for Guru Mangalachal prayers. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udiryet Shrotam Swakatha Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtanaha Hridayanta Sohar Vadrani Vajnunoti Suhasatam Nashta Prayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavate Ruttam Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Nashtiki. Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please join us today in Srimad Bhagavatam class. We'll be covering on a high level the lessons we learn from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 3, talks between Lord Shiva and Sati. And here we'll be focusing on how when an insult is inflicted upon one by one's own relatives, it is worse than death. And DAKSH, Shiva and Satī, Devi, they are in this pastime are continuing. So again, in the previous chapter, we heard as how Daksha, the leader of the Prajapatis, he cursed Lord Shiva, the best of the Vaishnavas, for no fault of Lord Shiva. And so this is where this chapter continues, where Maitreya Muni is revealing further why Sati Devi had to give up her body and why there was such a quarrel between her father-in-law and son-in-law. Hare Krishna. So please join us in the recitation of the first verse of Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 3. So Devi, can we share the link for the first verse?
Yes, Prabhuji, the verse has been shared in the comment section. Dear viewers, Prabhuji जो verse recite करने जा रहे हैं वो comments में shared है. ये class approximately 30 to 40 minutes चलेगी, but definitely it will end before 8 p.m. Indian Standard Time. So ध्यान से इसके lessons सुनिए. And Prabhuji, आप ये जो verse recite कर रहे हैं, should I put on microphone
Please,
for it?
Hare Krishna.
Okay.
Hare Krishna. So please join us in the recitation of the verse Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 3, verse 1. Maitreya uvacha sada vidvishatorevam kalo vedriyamanayoho jamatu shvasurasyapi sumahanati chakrame. Translation by, go ahead, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So I'm going to also try reading this verse. Everybody should try reading these Sanskrit verses. Maitreya uvacha sada vidvishatorevam sada vidishvatorevam kalo vedriyamanayo jamatu swashurayasyapi sumahan ati chakrame.
Translation by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada.
Prabhuji, let me put on microphone.
Maitreya continued, in this manner the tension between the father-in-law and son-in-law, Daksha and Lord Shiva, continued for a considerable long period. So in the purpose, Srila Prabhupada is revealing that the previous chapter we already discussed how Vidur had questioned Sage Maitreya what was the cause of Sati Devi giving up her body. And Maitreya Muni is narrating the incident as how when Daksha was performing the sacrifice and everybody got her from their seat, but Lord Shiva, he is constantly in meditation, so he did not get up, and Daksha, who was very envious of Lord Shiva already, used this as a large straw and cursed him. And this blaspheming went on for a considerable long time. Hare Krishna. So, please join us in Guru Prati. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Nitinamine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashatya Deshtarine Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Mukham Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langhayate Girim Yat Kripa Tadaham Vande Shri Gurum Dinataranam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Sadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. So in this chapter, we will be learning three main lessons. First is material consciousness and spiritual consciousness. They have a gulf of difference. In material consciousness, in happiness, one is joyful, and in distress, one is morose. But in spiritual consciousness, even though one may be in a happy state or in a distressed state, the experience is constant eternal bliss. So again, one is constantly rejoicing. Even the separation viraha, vipralamba bhav, is also very enlivening and blissful for the devotees. First difference. So again, we'll be looking at the difference on consciousness when we'll be discussing about the behavior of Daksha, and then we'll be looking at Lord Shiva's behavior, which is on the absolute platform. Yet at the same time, later on it is identified that even Lord Shiva becomes morose. That's because Lord Shiva is in contact with Maya, right? His wife Sati is Maya Devi, the eternal energy, external energy of the Lord. So because of that, even he experiences moroseness. And sometimes people ask about Shiva Tattva, which is a whole big discussion. We'll not go into that discussion, but Srila Prabhupada makes it very easy. The Acharyas, they reveal just like milk and curd or yogurt are in the same category, but once milk has been converted to yogurt, you cannot bring it back into the milk form. The yogurt or curd cannot be transformed back into the milk form. So that, the contact with tamarind or acid causes the milk to turn into yogurt or curd. That yogurt cannot be brought back to milk because it is the contact of tamarind, and tamarind here metaphorically represents the contact with the external energy, and Lord Shiva's consort is the external energy, goddess Sati, and later on she also appears as Parvati. So here, that consciousness, first lesson. Second lesson is to understand that the words spoken, by harsh words spoken, right? Penetrating harsh words spoken by a loved one, by a relative, by a friend are even more dangerous for us than, any weapons, shot at us, or even enemy. By natural propensity, enemy will always hurt us, right? But even that enemy's rebuke will not be as, penetrating or as, injurious to us than, the words from a loved one. And we have all experienced this in our life, so that's why, we can relate to it. And so much so that, sometimes the words spoken by a loved one, by a relative, makes us feel worse than death. And this is an advice that is being imparted by Lord Shiva himself. So again, we have to be very, very careful, understanding when we are interacting with our relatives, and make sure that we are on a good platform, good understanding as how this relationship is. And we should try to avoid ourselves being in a state where we may have to hear such words. Third and foremost lesson that we learn from this chapter is that when we are looking at this consciousness, right, material versus spiritual consciousness, friends versus enemy, a Vaishnava, a devotee, always considers everyone on an equal platform. That's why, a Vaishnava pays obeisances to every living being, right? They are very respectful towards the demigods as well. It is not that we are worshipping Lord Shri Krishna, so we deride demigods. No, we are respectful towards demigods because they are also devotees of the Lord. They are also living entities in whose heart Lord is residing as Paramatma, as Super Soul. So again, they are also very dear to the Lord. Even the ants, the trees, the aquatics, everyone is very dear to the Supreme Lord. So a devotee is very respectful, yet at the same time knows what is to be done and what is not to be done, and carries out the behavior. So again, based on who they are interacting with, they interact accordingly, and anukulyasya sankalpa pratikulyasya varjanam. So that is an essential piece. When having taken shelter at the lotus feet of Lord Shri Krishna, they follow the 6 limbs of Sharanagati. So what are the first? We also call it Kul Mantra, right? Because it starts with Anukulyasya. Anukulyasya Sankalpa, which is accepting everything that is favorable for one's devotional service. Pratikulyasya Vajam, rejecting everything that is unfavorable for one's devotional service. Rakshisyatiti Vishwaso, accepting the protection by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Shri Krishna. Gopatitve Varnam Tatha, and accepting the guardianship that he is going to take care of us. Lord Vishnu is the maintainer. So yes, the Lord will maintain us. He will sustain us. So again, Atma Nikshepa, and surrendering everything in serving the Lordship, mind, body and words. These are the 3 ways we perform various activities. So surrendering everything in pleasing Lord Shri Krishna. All our activities are dovetailed as offering to Lord Shri Krishna. So when we offer something to our worshipable deity, we offer flowers, not the thorns. So that's why anukulyasya, so that is very important. And as Lord Krishna desires, so again, as the recipient desires, that's how we serve. So we serve the flowers, not the thorns. We hold them back. We don't want to, commit an offense, especially at the lotus feet of Lord Shri Krishna. And Karpanya is humility. So these are the 6 principles. So I just covered the 6 principles of Sharanagati. Please, if you know them, write them in the comments to share with others. And also it enables others who are new to the session to learn in the process. So Sharanagati is the main principle we'll be focusing on, because that's what Lord Shiva is practicing. And he himself is showing by his example to Sati Devi in their conversation and trying to help her come to that understanding. So let's get started. So again, there is a big, for a long duration, this tension between father-in-law and son-in-law continued. So when there is conflict between two people, sometimes people just say, oh, it must be the fault of, the other party that this party is so upset, because Daksha was constantly blaspheming Lord Shiva. Now in the purport, Srila Prabhupada explains, as well as Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti and Jiva Goswami have given their commentaries as well. And Sridhar Swami is the authority on Srimad Bhagavatam. In his commentary, he reveals that Daksha was from the beginning, he did not like Lord Shiva. So again, why? Because of the external appearance. Lord Shiva's external appearance was dark complexion, scattered matted lock, hair, and he's got ashes all over his body, and he is wandering in crematoriums. He never builds a house. He lives under a tree, right? And his associates are bhoot, pishachas, and so forth. So again, there's some variation in this picture that's identifying the conversation between Lord Shiva. And what do you see? He is wearing a garland of skulls. At this time, Ganges and the crescent moon had not happened, but in this picture it is shown. And Sati Devi, his wife, she chose him because she was attracted. So again, the material energy, Maya, always chooses Lord Shiva to be her husband. So she chose him because they are, eternal consorts. And so in this, and Sati Devi, in this case, when she is born as the 16th, the youngest daughter of Daksha. So Daksha, from his wife Prasuti, had 16 daughters. 13 were married to Dharma, we talked about. The youngest one, Sati, she selected Lord Shiva. And when Daksha, he felt like that is not a good decision. Even Lord Brahma, he requested Daksha to marry of Sati with Lord Shiva, because Lord Brahma knew that she is material energy, she is Maya Devi. So she should be married to Lord Shiva. And so Daksha married her off, but he was never satisfied. He did not like the appearance, because he was always contrasting the appearance of Lord Shiva with his own appearance, right? And his appearance, he was the Prajapati. He was very wealthy, very famous. Daksha means an expert. He was expert in whatever he was doing. So again, he was performing yagyas after yagyas. He was, getting the name, fame and glory, so in a mode of passion. So he was carrying out, helping Lord Brahma, who is a personification of the mode of passion, in Lord Brahma's activities. And Lord Brahma's activities are creative activities in the mode of passion. Lord Vishnu's activities are maintenance, which is in the mode of goodness. And Lord Shiva is a personification of Tamoguna, which is the mode of ignorance. So his activities are those of destruction. And so he's looking at Lord Shiva's activities, which are just opposite to his activities. He's looking at Lord Shiva's form, which is covered with ashes, while he's wearing silken clothes, golden ornaments, jewels. And he's looking at Lord Shiva's surroundings. He's looking at Lord Shiva surrounded by ghosts and hobgoblins, while his associates are the sages, the brahmanas, the demigods, who are literally worshipping him because of his material opulence. And Queen Kunti, in her prayers, have also identified, Janmeshwarya Shutashi Bhiridhyamana Madhapuma Nevarhatya Bhigatatum Vai Twam Kinchana Gocharam. So Janma, when you have a higher birth, Aishwarya, when you are very opulent, very rich, Shruta, when you are very learned, Shibhi, when you are very, beautiful looking. so again, or handsome in this case of Daksha. So when one is Edyamana Madhapuman, when becomes proud because of any of these qualities, one gets a lot of name, fame and glories, and one becomes proud, that person cannot approach the Lordship, the Supreme Personality of Lordhead, Shri Krishna, Akinchana Gocharam. Lord Shri Krishna, who can easily be approached by one who is devoid of all material qualities. So again, so we can see that Lord Shiva, he doesn't care about how he is living, who he is living with, because he is constantly meditating on Lord Sankarshan, an expansion of Lord Krishna, expansion of Lord Krishna. While Daksha is living in an opposite way, but he becomes proud. Lust, anger and greed are the gates to hell, and the way to the hell, the road is paved by pride. Pride cometh before fall. So that's an important lesson too. So Daksha from the beginning did not like Lord Shiva. And now that for considerable time he had been blaspheming Lord Shiva, and he started another sacrifice. So in the previous chapter we covered the first sacrifice that Daksha was performing, where he cursed Lord Shiva and left the sacrificial arena in the middle, which is like even insulting, even ignoring the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Yagya Purusha, Bhoktaram Yagya Tapasam. So Lord Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita that he is the beneficiary of Yagya Tapasam, right? Yagya's sacrifices, tap, austerity, sam is all other activities, including charity. So again, here we are saying that Daksha, he was creating lot of offenses, and these offenses are causing those anarthas to grow in him, in his heart, and so he was becoming more and more proud. And the chain reaction was going, and he was committing Vaishnava Aparadh, a mad elephant disease, when he was blaspheming Lord Shiva, who is the topmost Vaishnava, Vaishnava Nam Yatha Shambhu, just because he could not understand the glories of Lord Shiva. He did not know that why did Lord Shiva not get up? Because he was in meditation. So continuing forward from this chapter, as we hear the glories of, devotional service. So again, we understand that Daksha is on his way to hell. He is becoming proud, and pride cometh before fall. And on top of that, sometimes people would say, but Lord Shiva, wasn't he, in a way, making Sati feel bad when he is called Dakshayani? So Lord Shiva would address his wife, Dakshayani, the daughter of Daksha Prajapati. And no, in a loving mood, because Lord Shiva never considered anyone as his enemy. He would understand, yes, Daksha is blaspheming me, and he would feel bad about it, morose at times, as is revealed later on this chapter. But he was always, respectful. And he would call his wife in a loving way Dakshayani. Sometimes, husbands, they call their wives with different names, sometimes related to their father, sometimes related to their sons or daughters. They say, they call the name of the son or daughter Ki Mummy, right? The mother of so and so. So that's a loving way of identifying that, there is a connection, there is a relationship. And this relationship is very nice for the person who's hearing to understand, right? And that's why devotees, we have in our name ending with Das, that we are the servant, constant reminder that we are an eternal servant of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Shri Krishna. So it was not name calling. Sometimes people say, Lord Shiva was calling Sati Devi as Dakshayani, and that could be name calling. No, it was not. It was in purity. Lord Shiva is calling his wife because she is daughter of Daksha, and he's calling her daughter of Daksha because he knew that she was the favorite, she was the pet of Daksha, her father's pet. She was the most loved. Daksha loved goddess Sati, the youngest daughter, his youngest daughter, the most. And knowing that the youngest daughter is loved the most, she really relished this love of her father coming especially for her. So by calling her Dakshayani, Lord Shiva was making her happy, making her feel joyful that yes, my father loves me very much, and I am the daughter of my father. So my husband knows that I am my father's favorite child. And so what is the natural inclination of a woman? Basically, when Sati Devi came to know that Daksha is performing another sacrifice, then of course she was curious to take participate in this sacrifice. And when she is curious to participate in this sacrifice, first Daksha performed a sacrifice called Vajpaya. And we heard about doing that sacrifice, he cursed Lord Shiva and so forth. And because of the success of that sacrifice, Vajpaya, he became excessively confident in his support by Lord Brahma, because he saw that Lord Brahma did not support Shiva. He was still trying to, pacify Daksha. And just to pacify Daksha, that Daksha should not feel so neglected, Lord Brahma did another step which actually went in the opposite direction, which is Lord Brahma made Daksha the leader of the progenitors. So he became now the leader in his domain. So previously, Lord Brahma was identified as president of the assembly. Now Daksha is feeling that he is on a similar level. So he is comparing himself, that he is becoming very proud. So he performs another sacrifice, in response to this promotion that he received. And this sacrifice is called Brihaspati Sava. And Brihaspati Sava is always performed after successful performance of Vajpaya Yajna. So as per the scriptures, so now, the Brahmanas and the sages, they are performing this as per the Vedas. They are following the injunctions of the Vedas, but even though they are following the injunction of the Vedas, the purpose should be to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead. While the purpose that these Brahmanas and sages were engaged by Daksha is because they were feeling they will get a lot of charity, from the sacrificial arena. Engaging in the sacrifices, they will be rewarded heavily. And so they had some fruitive intentions. So this is Mishra Bhakti. Mishra Bhakti is like, you are doing devotional service, but with an intention of getting fruitive gains, for sense enjoyment, to enjoy this in this material world. So when that is there, that Mishra Bhakti, which sometimes comes because of karma, jnana, and trying to also have attraction towards the sense objects for sense enjoyment, for sense gratification. And that is not pure bhakti. That's why the definition of pure bhakti has been given, by Srila Rupa Goswami. He elaborates in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Anyabhilashita shunyam jnana karma dhyanavratam anukulena krishna anushilnam bhaktir uttama. So what is uttam bhakti? Pure devotional service. Anyabhilashita shunyam. He does not say anyabhilasha shunyam. If anya abhilasha, right, anya abhilasha, it can be split, sandhi vichhed, as anya abhilasha means having no other desires. But he is saying anya abhilashita. So yes, the devotee has no desire except for Lord's protections, Lord as the protector, Lord as the guardian, and taking shelter to please the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So that's why, when there is a danger comes in a devotee's life, they immediately take shelter of the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Shri Krishna. And that is the essence. That's why it is anyabhilashita shunyam. All other desires, except for being protected, except for being guarded, all other desires are shunya. They are nil. So having no other desires. Jnana karmadya anavrita. Anavritam is not covered by what? Jnana, this monistic knowledge, right? Speculative knowledge, or karma, the fruitive engagement in activities to enjoy the fruits for sense gratification, not being covered by these two factors. These are very important to understand, because for bhakti, bhakti is independent. It does not depend on any other yoga process, including Ashtanga Yoga or Jnana Yoga or Karma Yoga. Rather, all of the yoga systems depend on bhakti, right? Devotional service to attain perfection. And Lord Krishna says very clearly in Bhagavad Gita, he is identifying that Bahunam Janmanam Ante Jnanvan Mam Prapadyate Vasudeva Sarvamiti Sa Mahatma Sudurlabha. After many, many births, a Jnana Yogi, right? One who is in knowledge takes shelter of me. Well, so Jnana Yogis have to take many births to take shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But a devotee, a Vaishnava, can immediately take shelter by taking to the chanting of the holy name. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And of all the yogis who is the best yogi? So in the 6th chapter, where Lord Krishna is elaborately describing Ashtanga Yoga in Bhagavad Gita, he says, Yogi nam api sarvesham yadgate dantaratmana shaddavan bhajate yomam same yukta tamo mata. So who is the best yogi? Yogi nam api sarvesham madgate nantaratmana. So again, one who is constantly meditating, engaged in my service. Shaddavan bhajate yomam. With devotion, with love, with gratitude, he is engaged in doing what? Or she is engaged in doing what? Devotee is engaged in bhajate yomam, engaged in devotional service. Bhaj is very much different than puja, right? Bhaj means devotional service, all the process of devotional service. So the various processes, the 9 processes. If you know the 9 processes of devotional service, please write it in the comment. What are the 9 processes of devotional service? So that's bhaj, bhajate yomam. So who's they engaged in devotional service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead? They are serving the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Samay yukta tamo mata, and that is properly situated yogi. Yoga means connection with the Supreme, connection with the Absolute, connection with the Transcendent. So again, when we are connected with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, that is yoga. Not that we are performing exercises to get a stronger body. We are performing, various kind of Ashtanga Yoga processes, but to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Yes, we should take care of the body so that our body is properly equipped to be able to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is the means to the end, not the end itself. The end is the pleasure of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So devotees act as order suppliers of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They want to, again, what do we have? Nothing much. Srila Prabhupada says, what is the value of our things? All that we have received it from Krishna. But if we offer it with love with Krishna, that my dear Krishna, this is nothing, but this is what I want to offer you with love, with devotion, now that will be of value, because the feeling, the devotion, the expression through our activities, mind, body and words of gratitude and love, now that is appreciated. Otherwise, what is the value of various things that we have, which we have received from Lord Shri Krishna? He is the Sarvalok Maheshwaram. He is the supreme proprietor of spiritual and material universes. So again, we have to be in the right consciousness. And here we are seeing that Daksha is becoming puffed up with pride, because now he is appointed as the chief of all Prajapatis, the progenitors of population in this universe. And so he became puffed up. And so he performed Vajpaya. Followed by Vajpaya, he is performing Brihaspati Seva. And so this, when Brihaspati Seva is being performed, people, is being scheduled, to be performed. Many personalities from all over the universe, the Brahma Rishis, the great sages, ancestral demigods, and other demigods, from even the higher living beings, which are from Gandharva Loka, Siddha Loka, and those, many of the heavenly planets, the living entities, they are coming, and the ladies, the wives, they are very nicely dressed. So again, this is the mood of the female consorts. Again, female ladies, they like to dress very nicely, very attractively, and they like to go in such celebrations with their husbands. So that way, they get to mingle with their friends, with their relatives, yet at the same time, they are present with their husbands, who are, of course, their worshipable better half. And for the husbands, the wives are better half. So again, who is the best half? That is, of course, Shri Shri Radha Krishna, straightway. And they are one, not halves. And that one is infinite. So that is also very important for us to understand that, yes, so wives and husbands, again, the various couples, they were getting very nicely decorated, very nicely getting ready to take part, and they are coming from different parts of the universe. And Sati Devi, the chaste lady Sati, the Akshayani, she heard these heavenly denizens, flying in the sky, conversing about the great sacrifice that Daksha was performing. So it is being performed by who? Her own father. And she is the favorite child of her father. and she is feeling this separation from her father. And she also understands that this separation is because her father has been blaspheming Lord Shiva, who is the pure soul, and Lord Shiva has not said anything or done anything or even thought of anything that could offend Daksha. But Daksha, because of his envy towards Lord Shiva, thinking that Lord Shiva is, associating with all kind of abominable living entities, ghosts, goblins, he's living in crematoriums, doesn't even build a house for the favorite daughter of Daksha. And in this state, he is becoming more and more envious. Daksha is becoming more envious of Lord Shiva, and he's blaspheming. So when she's feeling, she also wants to, just like ladies are decorating themselves, dressing themselves very nicely with silken clothes and ornaments and so forth. She wants to dress up, decorate herself very nicely with earrings, necklaces, with lockets. So she approached her husband, Bhutanath, Lord Shiva. But she's approaching her with great anxiety, right? And she's speaking to him, trying to pacify, see if she can help and she can go to her father's place, because it has been a long time that she has visited her parents. And when there is no celebration going on, not visiting the parents, okay. But if the parents are having a celebration, a festival at their place, then children definitely want to participate in that festival, because all relatives would be there and they would have a very joyful, jubilant environment in which everyone will be having loving exchanges. So she comes to Lord Shiva and she expresses in sweet words, right? She's not blaming. So again, in material consciousness, sometimes wife sees that a husband and their fathers have a fight. They go to the husband, they rebuke the husband. They go to their father, they rebuke their father. That doesn't help. One important lesson, when you speak in a sweet way, helping the other person understand how you are feeling, that is more beneficial than trying to point out the faults of those personalities. She didn't go and say, Lord Shiva, you are living in these crematoriums and you didn't even build a house. That's why my father is blaspheming you. She didn't do that, because she knew exactly the position, the highly elevated spiritual consciousness of Lord Shiva, as how wonderful devotee he is. So again, one of the lessons we also learn in this meantime, when we are talking to a relative, especially when two of our relatives or friends or family members, they are against each other, we should be speaking with them sweetly and how we are feeling about this situation, and try to bring them together. With that mood, she is approaching Lord Shiva, and she is saying that that your father-in-law, she's not saying my father, she's like, your father-in-law is performing a great sacrifice and all the demigods have been invited and they are going there. So if you so desire, then we may also go. Now this is very interesting how she is presenting it. She is saying that your father-in-law, not my father, your father-in-law is performing great sacrifice. And when such a sacrifice is performed, Lord Krishna, once again, who is the Yajna Purusha, he is like the root of the tree, right? The metaphor is being used. So when you water the root of the tree, all the branches are automatically, nourished. So yes, when we, perform sacrifices to please the Supreme Personality of Godhead, all the demigods and all the other living entities in this universe are automatically nourished. Yet at the same time, it doesn't mean that we neglect them like Daksha is doing. So a devotee is very careful, understanding that yes, Lord wants him to be worshipped along with his devotees. So again, the oblations have to be offered to his devotees as well. That's why devotee association is paramount. And in this age, again, what is the Yuga Dharma? It is said, yes, Sankirtan Yajna. But even Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur takes a step further. How can we be successfully performing Sankirtan Yajna? Sankirtan Yajna is based on the chanting of the holy name. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So that is a prayer to please my dear Lord Krishna, my dear Mother Radha, Hare, my dear Lord Ram, please engage me in your devotional service. But this is done in a sang, in a congregation. So this is congregational chanting of the holy name. which means that we have to also have loving exchanges with other devotees. And we should not consider anyone as our enemy, because everyone has Lord Krishna as Paramatma, expanded as Paramatma, sitting in their heart, and they are very dear to Lord Krishna. So a devotee is always looking for loving exchanges. And that is the basis Srila Prabhupada established ISKCON, International Society for Krishna Consciousness, so that the devotees can have the 6 loving exchanges. Dadati pratigrahanati guhyamakyati prichati bhunjate bhujate chava sadvidam priti lakshanam. Sadvidam priti lakshanam. So what are the 6 ways one can enhance the loving exchanges? So it is not just loving exchange, you can enhance. So these are the lakshan, these are the symptoms of love. So these loving exchanges are dadati pratigrahanati. So the giving of gifts and accepting gifts. So it is not taking of gifts, it's giving of gifts. So the mood of a devotee in devotee association, in sadhu sangha, in congregation, is the mood of giving, not taking, right? And pratigrahanati, and accepting, not snatching, accepting whatever is coming. If it's small, it's still great. If it's great, it is great. Whatever is offered by the Lordship, accept it as a mercy. Not look at the size, because that's relativity. So understand the secret behind things, right? Understand to see it from the spiritual platform, not from the material platform. Small, big, good, bad, large, more effulgent, less effulgent. These are relativity. We have to go above, grow above this relativity, and look from the spiritual platform that whatever we are getting as prasad. Prasad means mercy of the Lord. Dadati pratigranati. Guhyamakyati prichati. Guhyamakyati means, asking about confidential subject matters, like the, sweet pastimes, the loving pastimes of Lord Krishna and his devotees, and the expansions of the Lord and his devotees. So again, the pastimes of devotees, the teachings of the acharyas. So these are the things we should be inquiring about. What is the purpose of this life? We should be inquiring about. Most important question Srila Prabhupada says again and again in his lecture, Atato Brahma Jigyasa. So again, why am I here? Why is there suffering in this material world? What is the purpose of this life? How can I be free of all the distress? How can I attain the love of Godhead? All these are valid questions that we should be asking. How can I spiritually progress from where I am? Not look at the spiritual progress where someone else is, who may be much ahead or farther behind, but where I am. So we have to understand where we are, so that we can plan out our journey forward. And our journey is very nicely going on when we're in a sweet mood, with constant surrender, without having any fruitive desire. We chant the holy name. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So here we are seeing that all sacrifices are meant to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And Lord Shiva has been approached by his consort, Devi Sati. And she is presenting her case in a very intelligent way. And now she is also showing why she would also want to go. She's sharing her feelings, she's sharing her heart. She's saying, I think that all my sisters might have gone for this sacrificial ceremony as well, with their husbands, just to see their relatives. So all the relatives are going together, she's expressing. So I have not been there for a long time, so I also desire to decorate myself with ornaments and given to me by my father, and go there with you to participate in that family. So when Sati Devi is presenting it, it is in the purpose. Srila Prabhupada identifies that Lord Shiva, he was such a devotee, he was constantly engaged in devotional service, meditating on Lord Sankarshan, carrying out his activities very nicely, right? And he is personification of mode of ignorance, which means destruction. So even that activity is performing very nicely. So he never cared to buy ornaments and clothes and jewelry for Sati Devi. And so she's saying that, yes, I want to decorate myself with the ornaments offered to me by my father. Now what is important is that Lord Shiva did not take it as an offense at all, because he knew that Sati would like to decorate herself if she is going to a festival. and the only ornament she has are the ones given by her father. So there is nothing wrong in her saying that the ornaments provided to her by her father. And she also wants to go to this assembly because her sisters will be there. So again, her siblings, she will be able to meet them. And she is further expressing that my sisters, my mother's sisters, right? Prasuti, her mother, has two other sisters, Akuti and Devahuti. So, and their husbands and many other affectionate relatives will be there. So, if I'll go there, I'll be able to see them, right? If you go when there's no festivity going on, then she will basically see her parents. But now her sisters will be there, her other relatives will be there, and there will be nice decorations all over the place, and she will be able to see the performance of sacrifice by the great sages. So again, this is all auspicious things she is narrating, all positive points she is narrating to encourage Lord Shiva to come to her side and say, yes, let's go. So from these reasons, she is saying that, my dear husband, I am very much anxious to go. Because she is feeling that not just the separation, she is feeling that there is a great opportunity to go and she may be missing out on this opportunity. And the current times we see, but here we see, like, there is also anxiety, OMO, or currently we say FOMO, fear of missing out. People have this, right? So she is also feeling that kind of anxiety that she may be missing out on all these great celebrations, this gathering. So now she is taking a step back. She is saying, again, when she is expressing this, not getting much reaction from, response from Lord Shiva, she is now coming to a higher platform. Understand that she is also Mahamaya. She is the material energy. So she understands this material manifestation. And she is trying to present it from that perspective. So she is trying to bring a bigger picture in front of Lord Shiva. He is saying that this material manifestation of this material universe is a wonderful creation. And this creation is because of the interaction of the three material modes. So what are the three material modes? Mode of goodness, Sattva Guna, mode of passion, Rajaguna, mode of ignorance, Tamoguna, or also known as the external energy of the Supreme Lord. And this is, you already know, right? But me, I am a poor woman. And I'm not conversant with this truth. So she's saying that, my dear husband, you are highly elevated, you understand this material universe, but I am not so conversant with it. She herself is saying that she is not conversant with her own potencies, which is, in this particular case, her way of making her husband agree. And therefore, she is saying that I want to see my birthplace once more. Now, one's birthplace, one considers in this material world their birthplace to be worshipable, right? We see that constantly. Means again, acharyas have given a lot of commentaries around how one sees their birthplace to be worshipable. Now, in this, material world, Lord Krishna appeared on this planet Earth, so Earth becomes worshipable. Further, on this planet Earth, which was known as Bharatvarsha at the time, he appeared in Vrindavan, so Vrindavan is worshipable. And further in Vrindavan, Gokul. Sometimes people say that, wait a minute, Lord Krishna took birth in Mathura. Well, Lord Vasudeva took birth in Mathura. And yes, they are not different. So that's why Lord Krishna did take birth in Mathura, right? But an expansion of Lord Krishna, yet they are simultaneously one and same. So again, this is where inconceivable potency of the Lord plays out. Where Lord, he appeared, as son of Nanda Maharaj and Yashoda Mai. Vasudeva Krishna appeared as son of Devaki and Vasudeva. And Vasudeva brought, Vasudeva Krishna to, in the middle of, at midnight, and left him at Gokul, where, with Nand Baba and Yashoda Mai. So that's where now in Krishna, all his expressions are present, which means Vasudeva is also present in him. So this is where this pastime, that's why we call it Leela. Bhagavan ki Leela hai, there is his pastime, there is his arrangement. Just like an actor plays out on the play, Lord, as a perfect actor, plays out his role in this stage of the material universe, especially in Vrindavan. So we see the beautiful pastime being narrated. And so she is saying that, oh, never born. So she is calling him Aja, one who is never born, one who does not have, material father and mother. But then Lord Shiva appeared between the eyebrows of Lord Brahma. So Lord Brahma did not have a, consort with whom, he came up as his seminal son, but rather Lord Shiva was born, and so Lord Shiva, the bluish reddish boy who appeared, because it was the anger of Lord Brahma he appeared, he is also known as Rudra, right? And Lord Brahma is considered as his father, yet at the same time without a mother. So that is the reason she is calling him Aja, and calling him blue-throated one, Nilakantha, she is calling him. Because when Lord Krishna drinks halahal, now that pastime happens much later, but has been referred here because we know that she is calling out to the tolerant nature of Lord Shiva. So this pastime, when she is calling out this, that you drank the poison, right, halahal, which appeared during the churning of the ocean of milk, and because you contained it in your throat and it gave you a lot of pain, your throat turned into blue color, and that's why Lord Shiva is also known as Nilkantha. He has a blue throat, so blue-throated one. So because he had to tolerate so much of poison, halahal, which was a very grievous poison, but Lord Shiva was able to sustain it, he was able to tolerate. She was saying, you can tolerate the insults and the atrocities that may be coming your way, because this will be nothing as compared to what as compared to halahal. So she is telling, and then she is saying that not only my relatives but other women also, they are decorating themselves very nicely and going to this sacrificial arena with their husbands. So she is saying that they are going on airplanes, and then how can the body of a daughter remain undisturbed when she is feeling the separation? Yes, we'll be wrapping it up. So she is now calling him immortal Lord Shiva. So again, Lord Shiva, while material energy, she takes many births, Lord Shiva is considered immortal from this particular material verse perspective. And of course, as we understand, for milk is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and yogurt is Lord Shiva, Shiva Tattva. So that's why he did not take regular birth. He appeared, and so he sustains and he goes on as immortal. Yet we see that in the case of Bhasmasur, Lord Shiva ran. So now when we look at various instances, and Lord Shiva is now expressing that my dear wife, and first he is also in his sweet words. So the conversation between a husband and a wife should be in a very sweet ways, and there should not be name calling, which is like blaspheming each other, rather calling each other sweetly, So they should always address each other very sweetly. And says that one can go to a friend's house if the friend is favorable, if he is inviting, but if the friend is not inviting and friend finds fault in you, then you should not go to a house of such a friend, because that person is identifying on the bodily level various negatives and can become angry towards you. And similarly, there are 6 qualities: education, austerity, wealth, beauty, youth, and heritage are for the highly elevated. But then if one becomes proud, then one becomes blind, deluded, right? We talked about this whole cycle yesterday, as how when one becomes proud, one becomes deluded, memory is bewildered, intelligence is lost. So he loses his good sense and cannot appreciate the great glories of great personalities, because they are looking at the material conditions around them. And so such a place one should not go, even on the consideration of relative or a friend, because if the friend or the relative is disturbed in their mind and they looks upon their guests with raised eyebrows and angry eyes, that is not favorable. So Lord Shiva is saying that if one is hurt by the arrows of an enemy, one is not as aggrieved as when cut by the unkind words of a relative. इसलिए कहते हैं कि जो harsh words होते हैं of coming from a loved one, coming from a relative, are more penetrating, more hurting than even the arrows and thorns of coming from this material world or from the enemy. So why? Because one continues to be in a state of grief, and one's heart is constantly pierced by those words day and night. One is meditating on them. Now he's calling his wife beautiful, the white complexion wife, right? So see how beautifully, how wonderfully he's using sweet words. And he's saying that, yes, I know that you are the favorite of your father, right? But because you are married to me, you will not be honored in that house. And you will be sorry that you are married to me, you are connected with me. Why? Because he is making clear that your father is blaspheming against me, he is calling me different names, and because of his envy. But he is not stating that, he is just saying that your father will not give you the proper respect. And now Lord Shiva is giving an important lesson that one who is conducting on the level of material platform, influenced by the false ego, right, is always distressed. And that is the state. With that material consciousness, everything is Dukhalayam Ashashvatam. So that is material consciousness, that is this material universe, the nature of this material universe. When one is seeing with those material eyes, is that it is Dukhalayam Ashashvatam. And so they cannot tolerate the opulent of other people. They become envious and they cannot rise to that platform. Rather, they want to pull the person down. That is their tendency. So such people are envious towards great personalities, just like the demons, the Rakshasas. They envy the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now, what a wonderful analogy Lord Shiva is giving. So this is how we see the demigods and demons. They are constantly fighting because demigods are devotees of the Lord and demons are, they're trying to kill the Supreme Personality of Godhead, given the chance. So that's what they are thinking. They don't know that they cannot do that, but that's what they want. Now he is also encouraging her to say, my dear young wife, that she is very young, and a young person is very, sometimes very hard, find it very hard to control themselves, right? If they want something, they just want something. Then he's saying that, my dear young wife, certainly there are wonderful greetings when relatives meet, right? When you meet with your friends, you respect each other, we pay obeisances, we have loving talks, those loving exchanges. So we're covering the loving exchanges, and the last 5th and 6th ones are offering of prasadam, accepting prasadam. Sorry about that. So again, we look at loving exchanges, and basically, but one who is on a spiritual platform, he pays obeisances to every living being, understanding that they are paying respects to the super soul, right, who's sitting within the heart, not to the person who identifies with the body. Now this culture is something that Srila Prabhupada brought and seems to be getting lost in due course of time, and we should bring it back, because when the devotees would meet, they would immediately bow down and do Vaishnava Pranam and pay obeisances to each other. We should bring it back, because now we are practicing more with the devotees in the association, and that is very good, because that is, we are paying respect to the super soul in the other's heart, and understanding that they are Vaishnavas, because every living entity is an eternal servant of the Lord, and that is a definition in a way of Vaishnava. If a servant with love is a devotee, some know it, some don't. Now that's the difference. So those who don't know it, in the material consciousness, they think, oh, the person is paying obeisances to me, so I must be very important. Not realizing, yes, you are important because you are an eternal servant of the God. They start thinking, now I am a master of this person. They start giving commands to a highly elevated person, just like DAKSH. He tried to curse Lord Shiva. Now his curse was like a blessing in disguise. That's a different thing. So again, Lord Shiva is now revealing here that he is constantly meditating on Lord Sankarshan. He is constantly offering obeisances to Lord Vasudev. Here Vasudev means one who is present everywhere, like Paramatma, super soul, in pure Krishna consciousness, in pure form, right? Not expecting any fruitive results, Jnana Karmadi Anavritam. And so in that pure consciousness, he is engaged, and that consciousness is of Vasudev, where one is able to be in pure consciousness that delivers, reveals Lord Vasudev to one, is called Vasudev. So that situation is called Vasudev. And then he is giving her final, as an advice, that you should not see your father, because even though he has given you the body, because of his words, his harsh words, and that his followers and he are envious of me, he may very well be the taker of your body. You may feel that, he has insulted me with cruel words, although I am innocent, but you may not be able to take on that insult when you are neglected or even rebuked by your father. So in spite of this instruction, if you do want to go, neglecting my advice, so Lord Shiva is telling her, he's warning her that if you do go without taking to my advice, without taking to my instructions, then the future, the experiences you will have will not be good for you. And you're most respectable, right? He knows that she's, most respectable. She's the most dear of Daksha, but she will be insulted. So he's saying that when you are insulted by your relatives, this insult will be equal to death to you. So again, sometimes when we are insulted by our loved ones, that's worse than death. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada is explaining that when a loved one insults us, it's even worse than death. So, one who surrenders to a person, pays obeisances, Bhagavad Gita prapadyate word has been used, one surrenders. So one surrenders to a person, not to an impersonal. So when the devotees pay obeisances to other living entities, they are paying obeisances to the super soul, and super soul is expansion of Lord Shri Krishna in everyone's heart, and not to the impersonal Brahman. So that's again from Mayavad philosophy perspective it's given. And one should not be envious, but if other person is envious, and if one tries to interact with that person, there may be some harsh words coming. If the other person, is not a loved one, one may ignore, but harsh words coming from a loved one, from a friend or relative, pierce the heart of, the recipient, and, the result may not be good. So this is where he is giving the instruction to Devi Sati. Lord Shiva is telling that an insult from a relative is worse than death. So we hear about this lesson and we understand that we've surrendered unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, following the 6 limbs of Sharanagati. We should be, interacting with in loving exchanges with all our loved ones, and even with the strangers. We should be, giving them the experience of the loving exchanges, because everyone is dear to Lord Shri Krishna, and everyone, we should not even try to commit even Janaprad. What to talk about Vaishnava Prad? Because Vaishnava Prad causes the anarthas to grow in the heart, and that is a very unsuitable place where Bhakti Lata cannot grow. One cannot progress spiritually. So we should be very careful of this situation, and never when we interact with another person we should use harsh words. As we see, even though they have different motives, they have different ideas, Sati and Lord Shiva, husband and wife, they are speaking to each other in very sweet words, helping them understand how they are feeling and what is going to be the state and how they should come to a resolution. And seeing her condition, Lord Shiva understood that she is not going to stop, she is going to leave for her father's home. So she, is going to face a very bad situation, and so he tries to warn her as her well-wisher. Hare Krishna. This is where the chapter is. Devi, do you want to share something?
हरे कृष्णा. थैंक यू प्रभु जी फॉर दिस वंडरफुल क्लास. ये आगे भी इसका नरेशन अगली क्लास में कंटिन्यू होगा नेक्स्ट चैप्टर से. सभी व्यूअर्स जिन्होंने हमें सेशन के बीच में ज्वाइन किया है, सभी का बहुत बहुत अभिनंदन है. ये क्लास अब एंड हो रही है. प्रभु जी, आई जस्ट वांटेड टू ऐड वन क्विक थिंग. आपने जो पॉइंट बोला दैट वन शुड बी वेरी स्वीट इन देयर डीलिंग्स appropriately, based on 6 living exchanges. But many times we observe people pass sarcasm or duplicity enveloped in very sweet words. So we should be very careful of that also. Sometimes, there are people with wicked intentions. So they try to cause humiliation or distress to other people by speaking sweet words, but their intentions are not good. So we should be aware of these things as well. But from our side, we should be kind and compassionate to everyone without any duplicity, without any hidden agenda.
Yes,
Haribol.
that's very important. I'm reminded of this incident. What happened was Mother Teresa, how much humanitarian work she did as a devotee of the Lord. And in her diaries, she asked this question. She saw the suffering.
Prabhuji,
in
1
this
minute.
world.
Let me put on this microphone.
Krishna.
Can you repeat again?
So Mother Teresa, after she left this world, her diary was discovered, and people were going through her diary, and in the diary at places she wrote, how could there be so much suffering in this world? is there really God? So they said, oh, Mother Teresa, thought that she is a saint and she has a doubt about the presence of God. They are taking out her statements out of context and saying, how can she be saint? Maybe we are worshipping, not realizing that she was a great personality who was looking for the welfare of whole of humanity. And you question such a saint. So again, this is material consciousness, looking at relativity, not understanding that her words were expressing that, my dear Lord, there is so much suffering in this material world. People are suffering, and whatever ability we have, we should try to help other living entity. A Vaishnava is par dukkha dukhi, right? By seeing other one distress, he becomes distressful. A materialistic person is par sukha dukhi. By seeing another one happy, they become sad. And par dukkha sukhi, by seeing another one distressed, a materialistic person becomes happy. So materialistic person is always working on this material platform, while we have to elevate ourselves above this by engagement in devotional service and trying to see everyone as, a devotee of the Lord. All living entities as devotee of the Lord. Some know it, some don't. That's the difference. And that can make a very big difference, who we want to interact and who we don't want to interact. And if we are in a position that we have to interact with the ones we don't want to interact, then what is the level of interaction so that we stay on the Sharanagati principles, the 6 names of Sharanagati. Anukulyasya sankalpa pratikulyasya vajana. Accepting what is favorable and rejecting what is unfavorable. Hare Krishna. So, Devi, do you want to add anything else? Hare Krishna. So, if you have any question, we have a few minutes that we can quickly answer. Yes.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Yes, we do have some questions. If you can answer them and brief within the time frame you want to be done with the class. So there are wonderful comments by many devotees. I will try to read their questions. Just give me a second. I have to pull it up because Prabhuji, I had no idea that you can take some questions. So Baisakhi ji ने question किया है कि if possible, what should please explain in upcoming classes. So if you can give a short answer, otherwise we can do a class on it. What should be the Vaishnava qualities? What should be the Vaishnava qualities or things we should do when we meet another pure devotee of the God? So in a way, आपने 6 loving exchanges में तो काफी कुछ discuss कर ही लिया है. And other than that, if there is anything about the Vaishnava behavior you can share, which would be helpful.
So again,
let me put on microphone.
Yeah, go ahead.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So Srila Prabhupada talks about 26 qualities of a Vaishnava. It's also given in Chaitanya Charitamrita. And we hear about these 26 qualities, but what is that one quality? That a Vaishnava is very tolerant. And in essence, to be engaged in devotional service, the secret has been given in the 3rd verse of Shri Shiksha Ashtaka. Taradapi sunichena tarorapi sahishnuna amanina manadena kirtaniya sadahari. So again, by understanding one, accepting ourselves to be more humble than the grass on the street, more tolerant than the tree, ready to give all respect to others, not expecting respect from others, one can chant constantly, one can perform devotional service constantly. And now I quickly narrate the 26 qualities. One is very kind to everyone. That's the first one. Second is one does not make anyone his enemy. So that's why a devotee is also known as the Jat Shatru. One is truthful, Satya, Vachan, right? And one is equal to everyone, Samadarshina, looking at everyone as very dear to Lord Shri Krishna. And fifth one is no one find any fault in him. So again, not materially, but spiritually, no one finds any fault in him. Sixth is he's magnanimous. Seventh, he's mild. So that is his nature. And eighth is Shuchi, which is always, he is always clean. So when I say one is always clean or devotee is always clean, he or she. And ninth one is he is without possessions. So this is referring to material possessions because the spiritual qualities are there, but materially everything that comes, he accepts it as a causeless mercy of the Lord, as prasad, and engages it in service of the Lordship. And one works for everyone's benefit, right? And one is very peaceful, Shanta. And one is always surrendered to Krishna, following the 6 limbs of Shanagati. One has no material desires, but only has spiritual desires, akamaha, right? And one is very meek. So again, that is in a humble state. Not becoming a doormat, but staying meek means always thinking how to please Lord Shri Krishna and not seeking one's own name, fame and glory. One is steady in his endeavor, in his devotional service. And one controls his senses. Dovetailing the senses in pleasing Krishna is a very simple way of controlling the senses. But does not eat more than required, so no atyahara, right? He is not influenced by the Lord's illusory energy because engagement in devotional service transcends him above the 3 modes of material nature. 19th is he offers respect to everyone, manadena. And then 20th is he does not desire any respect for himself, amanina. And 21st is he is very grave. So again, pacific question is known as pacific, prashanta, because it's very deep. So, gravity is a quality. And his 22nd is devotee is merciful. 23rd quality is devotee is friendly. 24th is a devotee is poetic. 25th is a devotee is expert, daksha. But daksha is not a devotee in this particular pastime. However, he is working to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So from spiritual platform, he is devotee. For material platform, he appears to be influenced by material energy heavily. So his spiritual progress is stopped. And 6th is he is silent. So again, so silent is referring to when you are gambhir, when you are deep, you are able to absorb and ready to listen. So again, silent and listen have the same letters, but there is a gulf of difference between the two. So a devotee is always in observations. That's why he is silent, observing the surroundings. So these are the 26 qualities. Hopefully, Besaki Mataji, your question is answered about the various qualities of a Vaishnava. Hare Krishna.
So Prabhuji, unka question tha actually how to interact with devotees.
Yes.
So
And we talked about the 6 loving exchanges. Giving of gifts, accepting gifts, inquiring about the secret confidential matters, and discussing secret confidential matters, and giving of prasadam and accepting prasadam. Now, prasadam can refer to the food stuff or to the various objects in relation with Lord Shri Krishna. And these 6 ways one can enhance the loving exchanges. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So that was very insightful, Prabhuji. आपने जो वैष्णव qualities बताई हैं, we all should aspire to develop these qualities. And sometimes, Prabhuji, just a small observation, and this is just for applying within ourselves. हमें ये वैष्णव qualities develop करते हुए duplicity नहीं रखनी चाहिए अपने behavior में, अपनी speech में. It happens sometimes we observe certain certain circumstances, situation in the behavior of certain devotees, and we jump to conclusions. And sometimes many people, they start judging under certain assumptions, and they make grave offenses. And इससे काफ़ी deep meaningful relationships damage हो जाते हैं, जिनके लिए हमें careful रहना चाहिए, because अपनी भक्ति को संभालने के लिए, संवारने के लिए, devotees will distance from anyone who is a impediment or who is causing a disturbance to their peace of mind. So one should be very careful, because Krishna loves his devotees, especially the ones who are very respectful to his devotees. Hari Bol.
Very important point, Devi, that you mentioned. So again, not just that they are protecting themselves, they are also protecting others, right? So
Right.
Again, they have to keep an environment where others can flourish as well. And here in this chapter we hear as how Lord Shiva, he identified that your father Daksha is, calling me different names. He's cursing me for no fault of mine. So yes, familiarity breeds contempt. So again, when we meet someone, we sometimes have this on the material platform. Person can start thinking, "Oh, I know this person. I have figured this person out, and I can do whatever level of interaction and make them feel bad about things, make them feel sorry for their interaction, and that way I will have an upper hand, right? I have a superior position." That is the mentality of pulling someone down, right? That should not be the mentality, and this mentality is visible on the material platform. Yet even the devotee engaged in devotional service, even Lord Shiva was saying, yes, Daksha is cursing me even though there is no fault of mine. So he was understanding and he was feeling morose. Even Lord Shiva, the Vaishnava Yata Shambhu, topmost Vaishnava, is feeling morose because of this interaction. So devotees do feel, influenced. So they try to distance themselves and others to keep a very nice spiritual environment. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So Prabhuji, I do not see any more questions as of now. So we can, I guess, go ahead and we can end the class now.
Tantra
Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srila Bhagavad ki jai, Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai, Gaur Premanande, Hari
Hari Hari Bol. Hare Krishna. Om Tat Sat.